We would now like to convene a special session of the forum dedicated to a closer look at innovative solutions to strengthening ethical third-party intermediary relationships with a specific focus on the medical technology sector. This sector has been a particular leader across the America's health systems when it comes to identifying best practices and building capacity for ethical company third-party relationships. And here we're talking about the manufacturers of medical technology, as well as the third parties themselves, and a truly sort of symbiosis in terms of the relationship of ensuring ethical relationships and ethical conduct. I'd now like to bring together Hugo Alberto von Enken, Regional Sector Lead for Latin America and Healthcare Compliance at Johnson & Johnson's medical device companies, as well as Nancy Travis, Vice President of Global Compliance and Governance at the Advanced Medical Technology Association, or AdvaMed, to share some perspectives on where we are, where we've come from, and to showcase an impressive new resource that is truly transforming the space in the region. Hugo, we'll now turn the floor over to you, and we'll have follow you with Nancy. Over to you, Hugo.
Thank you very much, Andrew, and hello, everyone. I hope everybody is doing well. Well, my name is Hugo von Enken, and I have the privilege of leading the healthcare compliance team in Latin America for the medical devices business at Johnson & Johnson. I would like to thank the organization of the America's Health Ethics Virtual Forum, and to say it's an absolute pleasure for me to be here during these 2 days with such an incredible group of professionals that in one way or another contribute to enhancing the standards of ethics across different industries and including the healthcare. And the topic that we're going to be covering on this segment could not be of greater relevance. Like many other industries, it's well known that medtech companies have been partnering with third parties as suppliers or sales and marketing intermediaries. And generally speaking, the interactions between some of these TPIs with healthcare professionals and government officials have an important compliance risk, which may dramatically harm healthcare systems and ultimately patients. Although it has evolved over the past years, third-party risk management, it is still an area of challenge. Multinationals and big corporations typically have a need to work with thousands of third parties that may expose them to corruption and reputational risks. And while the majority of them might not pose a significant risk, it is critical to identify with the ones with the highest risk in an effective and systematic manner. And in that context, many companies have been implementing and enhancing compliance programs to ensure many things, including a solid and comprehensive process to identify, assess, mitigate, and monitor risks effectively. A due diligence process that is proportionate to the risk, which has to do with risk segmentation, and to develop a company-wide approach to risk management with consistent standards, policies, procedure, including, and this is particularly important, automated data systems and tools to support TPI management. But apart from all that, which are critical aspects of a compliance program, there's one thing on TPI risk management that is becoming more and more important, which is how the industry and many other stakeholders can help, support, and really empower these business partners to enhance their compliance capabilities by taking a few steps further to really help changing their risk profiles. These partners are often small and less resourced business, sometimes small family business. And the different stakeholders within the healthcare value chain, taking accountability from that perspective, have been trying to find ways and solutions to actively empower these business partners and ultimately have a more significant impact in terms of shaping a business environment across the sector. And it's within that context that I would like to thank the Advanced Medical Technology Association, AdvaMed, for orchestrating a very important effort that will significantly help those players building and enhancing those capabilities. And on that specific point, I would like to turn it over to Nancy Travis, Vice President, Global Compliance and Government at AdvaMed, so she can share more with us on the topic. Nancy, over to you.
Thank you so much, Hugo, for that kind introduction. It's a pleasure to join all of you today. Thank you. A big thanks to the organizers who have put together this wonderful event. It's my honor to join you. It's a real privilege to be here. And thank you also to Johnson & Johnson for your leadership in this space. We would not have gotten our program off the ground without Johnson & Johnson's support and encouragement, and we owe a debt of gratitude to you as well. So I think some of you met me yesterday when I first addressed the conference. As Hugo stated, my name is Nancy Travis. I'm the Vice President for Global Compliance and Governance here at the Advanced Medical Technology Association. Most of you know us as AdvaMed. We are a U.S. industry association that represents medical device manufacturers and diagnostic companies. Our companies that are our members make the full gamut of medical technology, diagnostic tools, both blood testing equipment, as well as radiation, X-ray, and then therapeutic radiation oncology products. Also surgical tools and therapeutic devices such as implantable defibrillators, pacemakers, artificial joints, really everything that you could want in the medical device space. We also represent the manufacturers of the ventilators and the PPE that has been so much in demand in the recent pandemic. We are well placed to share our expertise, and we have really valued our partnership with our colleagues in Latin America who have taught us a few things too as we've worked through these issues of ethics in the healthcare space. So I do have a couple slides I'm going to try to share. And if that does not work well, I'm going to ask my very capable assistants to share them for me. So let's give this a try. All right. How's that looking? Do I have any feedback? Okay. Having a little trouble moving back and forth. I do apologize, everybody. Okay, today I want to talk to you about the Global Distributor Compliance Toolkit. It's not a Zoom call without somebody having trouble with their slides. So I know many of you are well aware of the challenges of working with third parties, and they have been, working with third parties across the board has been challenging for companies, medical device companies, regulators. They're one step removed from the actual manufacturer. So even if the manufacturer has a high standard of ethics and is following a code of ethics, sometimes the third party they're working with doesn't have access to that code, or doesn't understand that code, or has not embraced the compliance topics as wholeheartedly as the manufacturer does. Also, sometimes there's a disconnect even between government expectations and between the manufacturers themselves and then the third parties. For many of the companies that I represent or that I work with who are based in the United States, when they're overseas, there can be additional differences related to cultural misunderstandings, language differences, and even honestly differences in codes of ethics and legal structures. So this environment is what has created the situation in which we have come to consider relationships with third parties to be one of the highest risks in the compliance space. If you look at recent prosecutions in the US Department of Justice, many of them have targeted medical device manufacturers' relationships with their third parties and a failure to abide by the highest standards of ethics with that third party. So we don't need to belabor the downside of a lapse in ethics in distributing medical devices. We can get erroneous prescribing decisions if they're not based solely on a medical necessity. We can see a higher costs if indeed we have bribery and kickbacks in place. We see a general lack of trust between patients, healthcare professionals, and medical device companies and distributors. And finally, just disruption to the supply chains, which is something that now more than ever we cannot tolerate. And lastly, nobody wants to be subject to a corruption prosecution. I don't even need to explain why that's a bad thing, but let's just say we all would like to avoid it. Now that I've described the challenge, I am going to talk about the good news. The good news is, especially in the Americas, AdvaMed has found a lot of enthusiasm on the part of distributors to join us in our quest for higher standards of integrity in the healthcare and medical device space. I will just tell you all, previously I'd done a lot of work in Asia, and I was very pleasantly surprised when I came to work on Latin America issues with the enthusiasm of the partnership that was being proposed by distributors in the region. They want to have high ethical standards. They want to understand better the expectations of the medical device companies that they are working with. They want to understand better the guidance coming from the government, the legal underpinnings. The problem is they don't have a lot of resources to figure this all out. And when you add in the cultural differences that I mentioned earlier, especially when working with multinational companies, it can be a very difficult problem indeed. So we set about to empower the distributors, just like Hugo mentioned. That is the solution. Once the distributors got a better understanding of the ethical principles, they quickly ran into another problem, which was they just didn't have the resources to build the compliance programs. As Hugo stated, many of these are very small companies. Sometimes it's just a family. Look at Johnson & Johnson. You have a huge compliance department, and it can be very it can feel like you can never reach that same high standard. So what we did is we worked with our companies to develop a digital tool, which is designed to increase transparency, increase the ability of distributors and other third parties to abide by codes of ethics. We've created something that is simple to understand and easy to translate. And it focuses on what the distributors need. It starts very simply with basic templates for codes of conduct and builds up into a more complex set of tools. We have been working hand in hand with distributors and government representatives through our Inter-American Coalition for Business Ethics to put this together and to finalize it. So just so you know how we came to create this toolkit, AdvaMed convened a team of our member company compliance officers, and we also worked with graphic designers, web developers, and professional translators. And you can see the names on the slide here. I won't go through all of them, but it's a good representation of the medical device industry from around the world. So I really do think this represents the best thinking from our best experts. You can go to the AdvaMed website. I know on the screen here is a very long link. I will try and pop that up in the chat after I'm done speaking. But you can just go to advamed.org/ethics and you can navigate to the distributor compliance toolkit. We have already translated it for you into Spanish and Brazilian Portuguese. And we've had that checked by our local reps in country. So hopefully that's all accurate. But the other good news is you can edit this and customize it for your own use. We deliberately did not put AdvaMed's brand on here because we want you to feel like distributors and distributor associations and medtech associations in the region can just build this into your own program. So feel free to put your logo on there. Let me know if you find any translation errors. We can certainly correct the source documents. But that is what we have put together for your use. And that brings me to the end of what I wanted to present today. I'd be happy to answer any questions. And I know we have a great panel coming up to talk about how this is being implemented in practice. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Hugo and Nancy, for these terrific perspectives, and of course the overview of the Global Distributors Compliance Toolkit, which is truly unprecedented, right? To have that open source, freely available resource like this available to the entire region. Let's now bring into the conversation some brief observations by medical technology distributor and manufacturer association leaders. So I'd now like to welcome together with Hugo and Nancy, so we'll keep you guys into the conversation, but bring together with you Bruno Boldrin, Executive Director of Abraige and President of Abis, joining from Brasilia, Victoria de Castillo, Executive Director of Cadium, joining from Buenos Aires, and Ana Requelme, Executive Director of AMID, joining us from Mexico City. So we're honored to have you all with us and sort of building on the great discussion that we've just been having with Hugo and Nancy. Bruno, could we start with you? Give us some observations from the Brazilian context of what you see, and then from there we'll go to Victoria and then Ana.
Olá, Andrew. Olá, Nancy, a todos do painel. Eu vou tomar a liberdade de falar em português, considerando que a gente tem aí a tradução para todo mundo que nos acompanha. Primeiro, eu quero parabenizar a Divamed e a todos que colaboraram para a criação do kit de ferramentas global para distribuidores, dizer que é um material que auxilia demais o nosso associado. Só para que quem nos acompanha e que não conhece, a Abraige, a Associação Brasileira dos Importadores e Distribuidores de Produtos para a Saúde, tem hoje 300 empresas associadas em todo o Brasil, que é um país gigante em termos territoriais, né? E nós fizemos o lançamento, além de contribuir com algumas sugestões, enfim, ao longo desse processo, eu e a Nancy, todo o pessoal conversando bastante a respeito disso. Além da gente contribuir com a criação desse material, nós fizemos o lançamento desse material no dia 1º de junho, no nosso curso básico de compliance, que teve mais de 150 participantes. E só para vocês terem uma ideia do sucesso e da importância que esse tipo de material representa, nós tivemos até agora 230 downloads de todo o material. É como se se uma empresa fizer um download, pelo menos, a gente tem quase 77% dos nossos associados já baixaram esse material, o que é algo bastante significativo para a gente, e tivemos 637 acessos na página do nosso site. Então, de fato, isso só prova que é um material realmente que vem para complementar e para, de fato, ajudar esse distribuidor, esse importador, que, como a Nancy bem disse, em muitos casos, e aqui no caso do Brasil também, são empresas pequenas, médias, familiares e muitas vezes com pouca estrutura ou com uma necessidade, vamos dizer assim, de uma capacitação bastante grande, né? E esse material vem para poder preencher um pouco dessa lacuna. Eu acho que, considerando aqui o tema do painel em relação a desafios e soluções inovadoras, né? E aí falando aqui pelos distribuidores e pelos importadores, eu acho que no começo nós tínhamos dois grandes desafios, que era exatamente a ausência de informação qualificada, né, e adaptada à realidade de cada distribuidor. Então, o kit, além de todos os outros materiais ao longo desse processo, códigos de ética e de conduta e outros materiais que as associações, seja em âmbito internacional e em âmbito nacional, vêm desenvolvendo, eu acredito que isso, junto com os treinamentos, capacitações, workshops e tudo mais, preenche essa lacuna. É óbvio que isso precisa ser constantemente atualizado à medida que os regulamentos mudam e as práticas de mercado também mudam, mas eu acredito que esse desafio foi, de certa forma, ele está endereçado a partir do momento que a gente tem o kit, a gente tem os materiais, os treinamentos e capacitações. O outro desafio é justamente transformar os princípios, né? Por exemplo, na Coalizão Interamericana, nós temos os princípios de Bogotá, lá na época da criação, em 2017, transformar esses princípios em orientações que atendam à operação diária deste intermediário ou deste distribuidor lá na ponta, né? Então, como que a gente transforma uma questão que é mais principiológica para orientações que, de fato, vão fazer sentido para ele ali no dia a dia, né? Para isso, a gente precisa acompanhar, enquanto associações, as mudanças que, eventualmente, o mercado sofre lá na operação todos os dias. A gente sabe que o mundo evolui, as tecnologias evoluem, as formas de se fazer negócio evoluem, então é fundamental que a gente acompanhe e que faça aí as adaptações nesse material para poder acompanhar essa mudança, né? E agora nós temos dois outros desafios que eu acho que são bastante importantes. O primeiro é ligado à questão de integridade como sendo algo hermético, como sendo algo restrito ao comportamento da indústria em sentido amplo, incluindo importadores e distribuidores, em relação, por exemplo, aos profissionais de saúde, né? Eu acho que a gente tem que... a gente está fazendo um trabalho, uma lição de casa muito bem feita, na minha opinião, e a gente precisa expandir esse conceito de integridade também para hospitais e planos de saúde, para que a integridade não fique somente, vamos dizer, em não desrespeitar a lei, mas também integridade na forma como você negocia com o seu cliente, como você lida com um distribuidor, que são problemas crônicos que aqui no Brasil a gente vive, né? O nosso distribuidor sofre muito. Então, você deve ampliar essa questão da integridade para uma dimensão também econômica, né? Óbvio que a gente não vai entrar numa discussão comercial das empresas, porque isso nem a legislação brasileira permite, mas é fundamental que a gente traga esses players para a mesa para discutir com eles o seguinte: olha, não adianta você dizer que tem um sistema de compliance, no caso, por exemplo, hospitais ou planos de saúde, e na hora que você vai negociar com o fornecedor, você ter uma atitude predatória, muitas vezes porque você tem um poder de mercado maior. Isso é fundamental para o equilíbrio da sustentabilidade do sistema de saúde, pelo menos aqui no Brasil, né? E aí, obviamente, que é fundamental indústria e distribuidores andarem juntos nessa discussão. E um último desafio que eu quero deixar aqui para vocês é o da Lei Geral de Proteção de Dados, inspirada na legislação europeia e que entrou em vigor aqui no Brasil já há mais de um ano, e que certamente tem o potencial de mudar não só a forma como os dados de pacientes e de profissionais de saúde são tratados pelo sistema, mas também de mudar processos entre os atores do sistema de saúde. Então, essa lei é bastante importante e é fundamental que o hemisfério esteja de olho nisso, porque hoje a lei está aqui no Brasil, amanhã ela está em outros países e, obviamente, a gente trocando informação, a gente se ajuda. Por fim, só para relacionar com esse último ponto que eu falei, da relação entre indústria e clientes, né, hospitais ou planos de saúde, é fundamental que a gente, enquanto grupo de indústria, coalizão, estreite o relacionamento com esses outros players, e aí o Ethical Principles in Healthcare é um excelente parceiro que a gente pode dialogar bastante para poder trocar informações e avançar juntos. Eu queria deixar aqui essas considerações, parabenizar os organizadores do evento e agradecer ao Andrew, a Nancy, ao Hugo, a Vitória e a Ana pela parceria aqui no painel. Obrigado.
Thank you so much, Bruno, for these great observations. And we have about 6 minutes left maximum, so apologies for the shortness of time. But Victoria, maybe we could change it to you from the perspective from Argentina. So maybe just a couple of minutes, and then we'll turn it over to Anna.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I will speak in Spanish if you allow me. Antes que nada, agradecer y felicitar a los organizadores por este evento y por lo relevante de este evento. Agradecer también que nos hayan invitado a participar de esta mesa y a la Inter-American Coalition, Andrew, Nancy, Stephen y todos los que están detrás y mis colegas, porque la verdad que el trabajo que hacemos en conjunto siempre se potencia. Dicho esto, le cuento un poco a la audiencia. CADIEM es la Cámara Argentina del sector que nuclea más de 120 empresas, 80% del sector en facturación, y realmente una interesante mezcla, porque tenemos desde empresas multinacionales hasta empresas locales, empresas grandes, medianas, pequeñas. En los 3, 4 subsegmentos de equipamientos implantables, insumos y BD, y tenemos empresas fabricantes, empresas importadoras, empresas distribuidoras, o sea que tenemos un poco de todo, lo cual nutre mucho la relación dentro de la Cámara y los inputs que uno recibe. Yendo a el foco que tiene que ver con los terceros y distribuidores, para compartir con ustedes, en nuestra Cámara el 80% son empresas pequeñas y medianas, así como decía Nancy, muchas veces con estructuras chicas, familiares, que el dueño hace todo, y para ellos es todo un desafío. Para compartir, quizás la palabra solución innovadora me resulta con un adjetivo un poco exagerado, pero sí sé que el adjetivo de eficacia quizás no es tan appealing, pero me gustaría compartir con ustedes, con los distribuidores, una herramienta que usamos que realmente ha sido muy efectiva, que tiene que ver con la capacitación, pero una capacitación con 3 elementos muy diferentes. Una que es teórico-práctica. A la mañana la teoría, a la tarde la práctica, como para salir con un mapa de riesgo, boceto hecho y también identificados algunos procesos, que es dado por una empresa que se llama DEPE, de Empresas para Empresas, o sea, quienes están siendo los que acompañan son gente de las empresas de distintos sectores. Y en tercer lugar, esto les brinda a las empresas que participaron un apoyo de un help desk durante un año, o sea, porque las cosas ya sabemos que después el desafío es implementarlas. Eso lo hicimos desde el año 2019, cada una de las capacitaciones, 4 con 40 empresas nuestras, distribuidores de empresas, etc. Y ahora se ha dado una vuelta de rosca, un avance, el desafío implementando lo que se llama un pasaporte de integridad, que es la capacitación virtual en 4 días, en 4 jornadas, teórico-práctica como eran antes, de vuelta con el apoyo, pero también con el apoyo de mentores que colaboran durante todo un año para poder realizar un código de ética, para poder identificar los procesos. Me olvidé de decir, pero en realidad lo que nosotros nos habíamos puesto como objetivo era que el código de ética se tomara vida, que no fuera solo escrito, sino que estuviera en el campo, en la calle, en todos los canales. No quiero quitar tiempo y por eso elegí esta actividad como para compartir con ustedes, más allá de las otras que hayamos hecho con los otros stakeholders, entre ellas la mesa de debate en 2019 también con la Inter-American Coalition. Muchas gracias y a su disposición para compartir más.
Thank you so much, Victoria, for your leadership. And as our last and final speaker on this session, Anna, we'll turn it over to you for just a couple of minutes to share your experience on this topic in Mexico.
Muchísimas gracias, Andrew, y muchísimas gracias al comité organizador del America's Health Ethics Virtual Forum. Por obviedad estoy hablando en español. Ojalá me puedan traducir para que todos puedan escucharme. En primer lugar, permítanme plantearles cómo ha sido el entorno local en México durante los últimos 3 años, que tenemos un gobierno que se ha centrado muchísimo en el tema de la integridad a la hora de hacer compras públicas. El tema de la pandemia aceleró esta necesidad del gobierno federal y es ahí donde la Asociación Mexicana de Industrias Innovadoras de Dispositivos Médicos, la AMID, que yo tengo el gusto de representar, tiene una historia que contar. Este enfoque que está tomando el gobierno desde hace 3 años con tanto ahínco ha traído como consecuencia que todos los sectores industriales tengan que tener un programa de integridad establecido pues en el ADN de las compañías. Afortunadamente la industria de la salud, ya que hablo de dispositivos médicos, tiene ya varios años anticipados a este tema y obviamente hemos tenido algunos pasos acelerados que hemos compartido con las autoridades. Pero sin duda esto nos ha obligado a tomar la decisión de que cada 2 años tenemos que revisar nuestro código de ética para precisamente poder analizar con el suficiente tiempo cuáles son las áreas de oportunidad que es necesario insertar para mitigar el riesgo que es inherente a la participación con los distribuidores. Mencionarles que la MIT cuenta con 40 compañías multinacionales, pero tendemos en nuestro haber a más de 500 distribuidores, que de igual manera como el caso de Brasil, de Estados Unidos y de Argentina, son empresas pequeñas, medianas y grandes, pero muchas son familiares, en donde el dueño es prácticamente el colaborador junto con su familia. Entonces, aquí es en donde en AMID hemos tenido que crear algunas soluciones precisamente para acompañarlos. Algo que nos robustece mucho es que desde un principio desde que existe la asociación hace más de 10 años, se le ha tratado de dar el lugar a todos los actores con un mismo perfil y un mismo estándar. Esto quiere decir, aunque las compañías no estén en la MID, nosotros tratamos los miembros tratan de incluirlos en todas las actividades y en todas las decisiones importantes y además obligarlos. En ese sentido se han llevado varios retos a lo largo de los años, destinos paradisíacos, nuestro compromiso con la integridad, Hemos superado el tema de datos personales a terceros e inclusive hemos generado entrenamientos al respecto, abiertos al público en general, pero muy focalizados en los distribuidores, en donde nos ha acompañado inclusive el Instituto de Acceso a la Información, el INAI en México, que es un organismo de gobierno dedicado a este tema. Los eventos en la virtualidad nos han acercado todavía más a ellos, pues porque sabemos que en la República Mexicana tenemos a tantos distribuidores como ciudades pequeñas en nuestro país, pero uno de los grandes retos que tenemos en el 2021 y que lo estaremos trabajando a lo largo de los siguientes años, y esta es mi conclusión, es el fenómeno de la subdistribución. Cómo los distribuidores han tenido que contratar también a subdistribuidores que ya no están bajo nuestro paraguas directo, pero que indirectamente forma parte de la cadena de la distribución de los productos en México, y cómo podremos acompañarlos también a mitigar el riesgo de cualquier acción que pueda ser considerada como equivocada o como no correcta. Para concluir, quedan muchos retos por enfrentar, pero sin duda el estar formando parte de este tipo de eventos de la Coalición Interamericana de Ética nos ayuda para poder tener, además del toolkit que ADVAMED creó con mucho acierto, nos ayuda para estar a la vanguardia y para poder pues, enfrentar estos retos que vivimos como Latinoamérica y poderlos plantear exitosamente. Muchísimas gracias por escucharme.
Thank you so much, Anna, and all of you for joining this session and giving your thoughts on this extremely important topic and for the advances that are made. Thank you all so much.